Welcome to my devlog series where I document the challenges I undertake each month using Unreal Engine's free for the month assets. The rules of the challenge are, as always, I must use at least one of Epic's free for the month assets. I shouldn't spend more than 1 week of effort on the project for the whole month. I must make a video reviewing the assets and what was learned. As usual, let's start with a look at what we've got this month. Triplex House Villa. Looks like we got a $2 million pre-furnished house here. With all the accessories packaged in, it really reminds me of The Sims. It definitely looks like a complete home environment, at least for some insanely rich person. Orca Games Full Animations Bundle. A decent variety of animations, but nowhere near worthy of the name Ultimate Game Animation Set, and it feels like half of them are just the same animation, but in reverse. So the movements end up looking pretty awkward for some of these, but maybe I'm just missing something? Magic and Spell Sounds Pro. This has a decent selection of sounds, but there isn't some amazing reason why you should buy or avoid this asset in particular. Procedural Biomes. Some nice looking environments, again not particularly mind-blowing, but definitely useful. Did It Hit? Trace Detection plugin. This is a much more technical plugin than the others so far, and could be very useful for an action RPG or other game where you need it to feel responsive and accurate to your inputs. The author also seems highly responsive to feedback. And for the permanently free collection, we have Advanced Stats with Rune System. This is some sort of UI asset. To be honest, I don't really get it. It kind of seems like something the creator made for a game they wanted to make, and then just decided to throw it on the marketplace. I don't doubt it could be useful for some people, but I don't think this one is for me. Maybe if I need some examples of fancy UI stuff, I can crack this open and see what they're doing. Another month with not really much going on. I'll have to think for a bit about what I can do with these. Well, I guess we'll see in the next section how creative I can get. Alright, see you on the other side. Let's jump right into a quick review of the assets I used. First off, Orca Games Full Animations Bundle. Again, unless I'm missing something, this seems to be missing quite a lot that would actually make these animations useful. Specifically, there's no intermediary animations that could be used to transition between this pose and some other pose. At the end of the day, this is just a small challenge project, so I guess it wasn't actually a big deal. But if I actually bought this project and 1/3 of the animations were just static poses without even having any transitionary animations, I think I would be pretty upset. Now, this was free and included many useful animations, so that's nice. And there are definitely animations I would want to use in other projects. But this asset just feels incomplete at best, and does not make me interested in looking at any of the author's other work. Next we have Magic and Spell Sounds Pro. This is just a decent set of sounds. There's no real reason I picked this asset, other than Magic is an easy jumping off point for random game ideas. I'm not sure how many different magic sound effects a full game actually needs, but I get the feeling this varies wildly, so it's hard to judge the value you'd really get out of this asset. Finally, onto some gameplay. The concept for this month is more of a mini-game that I would envision being part of a larger game. If you've ever played a game where you can make your own spells, you'll typically get a simple UI and some sliders you can move around. This really doesn't feel representative of what mages would be doing or why they spend years studying magic, in my opinion. So my idea here was that you could maybe make the player feel more like an actual mage by giving them an open-ended puzzle to solve. Given that this is a bit more intensive than the other projects I've done for this challenge, I hope you'll forgive the terrible presentation and let me get away with just explaining what everything means instead. Given what I had to work with, I'm stretching the concept quite a bit, but let's assume the player entered the Spellmaker, and now they are meditating inside their imagination, which is this weird place we see here. And for some reason, the way they cast magic is to do yoga poses. Think Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it's yoga. On the left, we can see the player character, which will show us the different poses we select just for fun. In the middle, we have a spell that you can try to make if you want. Below that, it will show you the information about any spell that you have just made. In the upper right, you can select different yoga poses, and then chain them together in different orders to create a spell. As you hover over each pose, you can see how that pose will affect the spell you're making. More on that in a minute. In the bottom right, you can see what I've been calling the spell board. It shows the player's current position along with magic clouds that, if the player touches, will change the spell parameters somehow. So the player will need to decide which clouds will help or hinder the current spell they are trying to make. For simplicity, there are only 3 parameters, which are your direction, shown by an arrow while you are making the spell, your speed, which is indicated by the size and color of the arrow, and finally, your spin, which is shown by how fast the white shape is spinning. Since magic is supposed to be mysterious and you're supposed to be studying its secrets for yourself, I won't explain how everything works. But as for the clouds, red clouds rotate the player, green clouds add positive speed, and blue clouds add positive spin. I'll leave it up to you to figure out what mixed color clouds do. Again, to keep things simple, let's just focus on one of the parameters: speed. As your speed increases, the elemental type of your spell will become more volatile. I've only implemented 5 elements now, which are, in order, dark, earth, water, fire, and light. So if you can keep all the other parameters the same, and only change your speed, your spell will stay in the same category, and only its element type will change. Okay, that was a lot of information to throw at you. Since this isn't a concept I've seen anywhere else, I'm not sure how to explain it succinctly, so it's probably best just to show you. Here, I need to make Ice Ward, so I'll need some speed, but not too much. And then I'll need to dial in the direction for the ward category of spells. Wow, it looks like I got lucky and chose the exact right parameters to start off with there. Let's try again with a different spell category now. Okay, Scorch. We'll need even more speed this time. Alright, we reached Fireball, so we're in the right speed range. Now let's focus on direction. Since we've seen a lot of the right side, it must be to the left. We could try a different pose, or we could just try to make use of these clouds we're about to run into. And there we go, perfect. This time let's go for a very low speed spell. So even though the speed here is negative, our speed arrow is red, which means this is going to give us more negative speed. Now let's add some positive speed to slow us down, and maybe this cloud will fix the direction for us. I suppose this video was mostly just trying to explain my idea to you, but I actually like the concept a lot. If I were to put this into a real game, I definitely wouldn't use yoga poses, and the spell board would need some more thought as well. But the idea of feeling like I'm actually studying magic, like the mages in that game's world do, is really intriguing to me. If anyone out there is aware of a game that already does something like this, let me know. I'm also not sure what to call this type of puzzle. A normal puzzle game would be built to have a specific solution in mind, but I guess instead of an open world game, this would be an open puzzle game? Obviously, this thing I've made is nowhere near the same quality as one of Zachtronics' games, but I think I also got some inspiration from their optimization, development, manufacturing, let's just call it the Zachtronics genre of games. Check out Opus Magnum and Infinite Factory if you've never tried them out before. Either way, I'd love to see a more refined version of this replace boring tech trees or slider bars in games that let you do research or create your own spells or potions. What would we call them? Immersive research simulators? Of course, the most interesting point to me is actually being able to use the things that you make in a larger game world. As always, if you have any suggestions or just want to tell me how awful I am, feel free to leave a comment, I guess.